Hey, it's John with Smart Edition Academy, and in today's video, we're going to go over the English section of the TEAS exam. So we're going to cover each and every topic that you'll see on the test, as well as the types of questions that you'll see and little tips and tricks that will help you guys really do well on this section of the test. So the goal of the video is that by the end of it, you know exactly what you need to be studying, and you don't have to waste your time trying to figure out, is this on the test, is it not on the test? All of these topics will be on the test, and you can go ahead and just get started on your studying. And if you check out in the description below, there are a ton of helpful links for you. You'll see a link to our Facebook TEAS study group. It has over 10,000 people in the group, all helping each other, answering questions, providing good resources, and it's just an awesome community, and I want you guys to be a part of it. So click that link, join the group, and then you'll also see a link to a full-length timed practice test for the TEAS. So this is great if you're just getting started, help identify your weak areas, or if you're getting closer to the test date. It's a great resource as well to give you an idea if you're really ready or not, and it'll just give you an idea of what the real test is going to be like. You will also see links to the Smart Edition Academy online course, our practice test packs, study guides, and there's just a ton of other helpful links in there, so check out all that information below. So let's get into it. The English section has 28 questions in 28 minutes. Now this means you roughly have 1 minute per question, which means you need to move through these questions pretty quickly. You can't take too long on them. So again, the practice test is where that's really going to help you out. Again, we have a free practice test and plenty of them in our online courses and practice test packs, but it's all going to be about repetition to try and get as fast as possible in answering all of these questions on the English section. So getting into some of the topics that you will see on the test, we can start with spelling, right? This is going to be things like vowels, A-E-I-O-U, your consonants, everything except for vowels, suffix, prefixes, your homophones and homographs. And those are, words like homophones sound the same but have a different meaning, and homograph are spelled the same but have a different meaning. So know the definition of those two and kind of how they're different. Commonly misspelled words is something that you might see on the test as well. So, things like accommodate, embarrass, scissors, vacuum, these are all words that are commonly misspelled. And, one thing you can do is actually make a list of words that you always spell incorrectly or that you're not, really proficient at, and just kind of keep spelling those words out. And eventually you will begin to know the correct spelling of any of those words and do well on any questions around that. Also, know your rules in English, kind of more grammar. So that's like I before E except after C, changing the final Y to an I, when to drop the final E. There's quite a few of them, so be familiar with those, and those are going to help you for this particular topic. Capitalization is also something that you might see on the test, and so this is going to be stuff that you need to know. There's some rules around this, and it's going to revolve around things like geographic location and event names, organizations, professional titles, individual names, publication titles, months, days, holidays, those kinds of things. Know when and when not to capitalize. Punctuation is something that you definitely need to be familiar with. Now we can break this down into the terminal or ending punctuation and the internal punctuation, which is going to be any punctuation within an actual sentence. So ending punctuation marks like periods, question marks, and exclamation points. That internal punctuation like commas, semicolons, colons, there's apostrophes, hyphens, quotation marks, all these different types of punctuations. Know when to use them, when not to use them, and how they're used correctly. So a real question that you might come across on the TEAS exam around punctuation would be, which of the following corrects this sentence or correctly completes the sentence? And so you need to know your punctuation and the 8 parts of speech to be able to do that. So another type of question that you might get around punctuation is something like just choose the correct punctuation. But it might, you might need a semicolon, but it's going to give you some options that are like conjunctions and other things that actually wouldn't make sense for that particular sentence. So you might know that semicolons can't be used as conjunctions. So knowing all these rules and kind of how to put sentences together using punctuation will be important for you. Now I did mention the parts of speech, so that is something that we'll have to cover here because that will be a topic and you will need to know all of these different parts of speech for the test. So we can start with nouns. Know how nouns are used and the different types of nouns. So there are singular and plural nouns, common and proper nouns, and concrete and abstract nouns. And when it comes to pronouns, know how those are used in sentences. And for pronouns, you have a couple different types. So there's subject pronouns, object pronouns, and possessive pronouns, as well as relative pronouns. So know kind of the difference between those and what they mean and how they're used correctly. Now, adjectives and adverbs, you'll need to be familiar with those two and kind of how they're different. Now, for adverbs, know how they describe verbs, how they describe adjectives, and adverbs that describe other adverbs. So there's a couple things to know there, so be familiar with, all your adjectives and adverbs. Conjunctions and prepositions are something that you'll see, so you know the types of conjunctions and the different types of prepositional phrases. There's verbs and verb tenses, so know the verb forms, like the base form, the past form, the participle form, how to use verbs correctly, so you would know the difference between they ate, I walk, we went, she seems, and some of those helping verbs and the progressive perfect tenses, so to be, to have, to do, know, all of that stuff. And then there's tenses like the present, past, future tenses, and the present perfect, past perfect, and future perfect tenses. So be familiar with those tenses and how they work. Now, when it comes to knowledge of language, there's a few topics that you will see and need to be familiar with. This is going to be subject and verb agreement. Know the roles of subjects and verbs, how they're used in simple sentences, how they're used in complex sentences, and regular verbs and irregular verbs. Now, when it comes to types of sentences, there are simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences, and there's parallel structure, which is kind of that passive and active voice. So be familiar with those and how, be able to identify what type of sentence it is that you're looking at. You may be asked directly to identify, the type of sentence. Now, there's types of clauses, right? Independent clauses, dependent and subordinate clauses, and coordinate clauses. Formal language, informal language, this is another topic. Just be familiar with those two and kind of how they work, what the differences are between them. And then we can get into more of the vocabulary acquisition type topics. So these are going to be things like root words, prefixes, suffix, know those, be able to determine the meaning of any particular word based on the root word, prefix, or suffix of that word. And then there's context clues and multiple meaning words. So using context clues to determine the meaning of a particular word if you don't know it, and defining a word using context clues, will likely be a question that you'll see on the test. Now, multiple meaning words are words that could mean different things depending how they're used in the sentence. So you might have something like current. Current could be like up to date, like a publication is current, or like a river that has a current flowing through it. Or it could be electricity and an electric current, but you would need to know, pulling out kind of context clues, which meaning of the word current do they mean in this particular instance. And then using multiple meaning words properly in context, right? And so that's kind of what this whole thing adds up to. Now, another example might be something like a season, right? And that's going to be obviously like a summer, spring, fall, or it could be a seasoning like a spice, like curry or cinnamon or something like that. So those are all the topics that you will see on the TEAS exam. There's quite a few topics here. There's quite a bit to know. Now, we're not diving into all of the information that you need to know. We're kind of outlining what you need to go study so that you don't have to question yourself. Is it on the exam? Is it not on the exam? Everything that we went over is going to be on the test. You will have questions on that. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. We're going to link some more videos up here that are more reviews for different subjects, other helpful videos for the TEAS. And again, if you like the video, like it, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.